Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys next. As of this recording, this show, Micah Parsons is still a member of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think that he is going to get traded. It would be insane, in my opinion, if they let this guy out of the building and they trade him. Now, the trade package that they will get back would be very lucrative as one of the best defenders in the NFL, and a young one at that. But I don't think they're going to let him out of the building. When you look at this is Brian Schottenheimer's first year as head coach. He's the offensive coordinator for this team over the last 2 seasons, been in the building for the last 3 seasons. He was an offensive analyst before that. 7-10, third in the NFC East last season for the Cowboys. Yet the projected win total is at 8, so we're projecting them to win one more game. And the reason why is that guy that's on the screen right there, Dak Prescott. He played in 8 games last season, and he struggled. He just had a lot of injuries, things that he was dealing with last year. And if you say that Dak Prescott's going to be fully healthy going into this season, well, you have to feel pretty good about it. The tough part to feel better about is you look at that offensive and defensive grades, 28th in the NFL, 66.5 overall offensive grade for the Cowboys. Now, you can say to yourself, hey, Dak being back is going to elevate that. And I do agree with you there, but changes in the offensive line, Zach Martin no longer being there, the running back room, very unknown now on this team, kind of like it was last year. And unless you think that one of those running backs in that backfield is going to break out, then I think it's a lot more questions than answered. And then, of course, you get to the defensive side of things. 62.9, that was 27th in the NFL for the Cowboys last year. I think there are some reasons to like the Cowboys defense, especially when Micah Parsons is out there. But we've talked about this throughout the preseason. This team was one of, if not the worst, run defense team in the NFL last season, and they were one of the worst run defense teams in the league throughout this preseason. So did they really get better at an area that really lowered their floor as a team? So the projected win total is what it is. It's one more than their win total they got last year because we're counting for Dak Prescott being back. But what do you think about the Cowboys overall? Some of the decisions that they made in the offseason, really largely ignoring that defensive line when it was such an issue last year. I love their draft. I love getting Tyler Booker and Donovan Ezraku and Simone Revel on this team. I think these are really good players, but it's hard for me to really think the Cowboys are going to be that much better, even with Dak Prescott being back.
I think that projected win total being right at 8 is perfect because you're talking about a team, in theory, if Parsons is happy and playing all 17 games, right, and Prescott plays more like we've seen throughout his career as opposed to last year when he really struggled, then you've got a team that I think can contend for a wild card spot. I don't think they're a prime Super Bowl contender. They don't have enough in the trenches for me to be one of those, especially when you look at the teams in their own division. Philadelphia is the standard in the trenches. Washington's offensive line is at least, I think, really good now with adding Laramie Tunsil. The Cowboys have questions with some of the more physical parts of the game, running the ball, stopping the run. Their O-line, their D-line, especially in run defense, has been a problem. I do think, in theory, if everything goes right, this team can win a wild card spot. Right now everything's already kind of a mess because even if we're getting Parsons back during the last week before the season, Brian Schottenheimer's already said, there's going to be like a ramp-up kind of period where we don't know if he's going to play a full game. You're playing Philadelphia week 1. If Micah Parsons isn't playing 60-plus snaps, I don't know who's going to stop this team. You're playing the best offensive line in football. So, I mean, we're already behind the 8 ball in this front 7 with your best player and a front 7 that I already had major questions about. So I think there is a wide range of outcomes here. I do like the passing game. I will say my favorite move they made this offseason by far was getting George Pickens. Say what you want about him, however it ended in Pittsburgh, but he's a perfect complement for CeeDee Lamb. Because when you look at Prescott's struggles last year and even CeeDee Lamb struggling a bit last year, they just did not have that second guy who could take the top off. Anybody who could get vertical and create that space underneath for CeeDee Lamb to work his magic. So I'm in on the George Pickens trade. I'm all in on that. I think it's great. I think the problem is their lack of a run game. Dak Prescott might be a good bet to lead the league in pass attempts this year. They may just have to throw it every play because I don't know really what they're going to – I mean, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, a fifth-round rookie who I like, but he's never been a full-time running back like that. Their inability to run and stop the run is what gives me pause. It's a lack of balance on both sides of the ball.
For the key stat you had for the quarterback position in Dak Prescott last year, it was a 4.7 turnover-worthy play rate, which was second highest amongst quarterbacks with at least 300 dropbacks. Now, the year prior, I was making cases that I wasn't saying that Dak Prescott should win MVP over Lamar Jackson. I felt like Lamar Jackson should have won MVP 2 years ago. But I felt like Dak should have gotten consideration for how well he played. Or at least we should have talked about or recognized what a fantastic year Dak was having. So he was playing that caliber back in 2023. 2024, obviously a very different story. So if you tell me we get a lot closer to the 2023 version of Dak Prescott, then yeah, I feel good about that 8-win total, and I could even go over that for how well he was playing and how important that position is. But he's got to be fully healthy. He's got to play the full season, and it's got to look different than what it did last year. And I think the George Pickens being in the lineup helps that. But again, I won't say a step back in the offensive line. I'll just say uncertainties because I won't, kill him for it before the season even started. And then not having that running back room to lean on, to have that confidence with. That is something that they have to establish with their identity. So how do you feel about Dak specifically highlighting that statistic of what we saw last year from him?
Yeah, he may not play well enough to be second in the MVP voting again. I think he had a 90 passing grade that season 2 years ago, but he also should be better than last year. Lowest passing grade of his career, highest turnover-worthy play rate of his career. It just wasn't good, and I think the big theme, again, I don't think it's just him. It's not his fault. Yes, there were bad throws, but he was thrown into a lot of tight windows because nobody was open. There was nobody other than CeeDee Lamb that could separate, and even when these teams got in zone coverages, half the defense's eyes just went to number 88 because they know exactly where Dak wants to go with the ball. He couldn't trust anybody else. The year before, why Dak emerged into an MVP candidate was because you at least had a guy like Brandon Cooks who threatened the safeties and created that space for everybody else. And Dak's a very good vertical passer who can hit those throws, especially down the seams. Last year, you didn't even have a healthy Jake Ferguson. That's a big factor in this, too. He didn't look great last year with the injuries he was trying to play through. So I think healthy Ferguson, George Pickens added, CeeDee Lamb's obviously an elite player. Guys like Jalen Tolbert and Kevontae Turpin, I think even Jaden Blue could help him as a receiver. This can be a really good passing game. And even if Dak's not a top 5 quarterback like he was 2 years ago, a top 12 sort of performance like he usually gives you is a major improvement on what he did last year, and then especially in the games that Cooper Rush had to start in the second half.
Let's talk about your rookie to watch that you mentioned for the Cowboys, and it is Tyler Booker. And, it's unfair to say taking over for what has been a Hall of Famer type of player in Zach Martin, but the reality is that's basically what's happening here. It's a 1-in, 1-out. And, you note in the article about Booker's ability to be a downhill type of blocker, a man and gap scheme run blocking concept type of an offensive lineman. Anybody who watched Tyler Booker when he was at Alabama, anybody who, read our thoughts throughout the scouting process and everything knows that the guy wants to be in a phone booth, right? He wants to get you between the shoulder pads. He wants to push you downhill. He wants to displace you when we are moving north to south. Now, I don't agree with the assessment with Tyler Booker, and I think that they could certainly lean into more man and gap scheme run blocking concepts. But the Cowboys specifically last year, they ran those man and gap scheme run blocking concepts, those more downhill power concepts, what Tyler Booker is good at, just 25% of the time, whereas they were running those zone concepts more than 50% of the time. So they kind of leaned into those zone concepts a little bit more last year. Now, maybe that's just what they thought the strength of their running backs were last year, as opposed to what they think the strength of their offensive line and the backs that they have this year are. It could certainly switch. But Brian Schottenheimer is still the offensive coordinator. This is technically his third year, or he was the offensive coordinator last year. Obviously, as the head coach, he's got heavy offensive input on exactly what the offensive identity of this team is going to be. And this is his third year there. So it's not like they're switching coordinators. So it does worry seems a little too strong of a word, but you draft Tyler Booker and you talk about, oh yeah, no brainer, look how good he is as a player. I have a little bit of concerns about the scheme fit overall with this team, given what it was last year. Now, again, a lot of changes, and so that could bring up those changes in how often we see those power run blocking concepts versus those zone blocking concepts. But I also don't know if Tyler Booker's the perfect fit for the Cowboys. I guess time will tell there. What do you think?
I think that the scheme part of it's to be determined because they were still running Mike McCarthy's offense. And even though Schottenheimer was there as the OC, Mike McCarthy was calling the play. So I think there are, when you go back and even look, Schottenheimer's got a long history. I can remember him when the Mark Sanchez days calling plays for Rex Ryan and the Jets. It was a little more of a downhill power scheme. Now, that was one of the best offensive lines I've ever seen with Nick Mangold and Brickashaw Ferguson and those guys. But, I mean, even going all the way, I think there could be some changes to the scheme. I think they do want to get more downhill and lean in between the tackles, running these power schemes and doing things that Tyler Booker can do. And I think we have faith in him as a pass protector on the inside, right? He was 4th in true pass blocking grades among all guards last year in college football. So I think Booker is a solid fit. I'm with you. I don't know that I would have taken him 12th overall. And you know, we've talked about the draft order and things, the order of how the Cowboys took these guys. But either way, he's going to start at right guard for him. And I actually do feel pretty good about their interior of Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe at center, and Tyler Booker on the inside. It's the tackles I worry about more than the interior guys. I think Booker, is he going to be the best guard in the league? I don't think so. I think he's more of a long-time solid starter, but I think he could be a good fit if Schottenheimer does make those changes, because it was still Mike McCarthy's offense last year.
The season-long bet for the Cowboys that Ben Lindsay likes, George Pickens, more than 8 receiving touchdowns this season. You find that over on DraftKings at plus 200. That would be quite the year for George Pickens, who his career high to this point in a single season has been 5. So he's never had more than 5. Ben's saying that he likes the 8 number there. Dallas has had, this is his words here, quote, Dallas has had the second most efficient passing offense in the NFL since 2023, and Prescott was at his best last season when he was attacking vertically, a role that Pickens is set to fill in 2025. Prescott is comfortably the best quarterback that Pickens has played with in his career, and with a questionable run game and defensive questions as well, the Cowboys will likely be forced to pass at a high volume all season. What do we think about that bet, Dalton?
I think that high volume part you just mentioned is the whole key. I think there's a chance that Dak Prescott leads the league in pass attempts. I don't have a ton of faith in this team, especially at the running back position, to be able to have balance in this offense. I think when push comes to shove and you start getting in these high-scoring games and they just need to score points because they can't control the pace of it, they're going to get in a no-huddle offense. They're going to throw the ball a ton to CeeDee Lamb will probably lead the league in targets. George Pickens could score a lot of touchdowns. I think anytime they get down in the red zone, if he gets that one-on-one opportunity with the goal line fade, he's going to get those chances. Pickens is going to have plenty of opportunity to hit this mark. I think Dallas is going to be throwing the ball a ton. It makes a lot of sense to take a lot of the Dallas passing overs this year.
Yeah, and there's a good odds, plus 200, obviously pretty good odds there if you think that is going to happen, and there's obviously reason to believe it.